The Kraskov Nebula was beautiful in the way that all deadly things possessed a certain terrible majesty. Captain Marcus Reeves watched the view screen as the Tenacity pushed deeper into the swirling clouds of ionized gas and stellar debris, the radiation levels climbing to numbers that would have sent any sane ship fleeing for safer space. His crew wasn't sane, not by galactic standards anyway. Radiation at 400 times Coalition safety limits, Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice as calm as if she were reading breakfast menu options. Shields holding at 82%. External sensors are getting interference, but we're compensating with multispectral scanning. Any sign of Devourer activity? Marcus asked. Negative on direct contacts, but I'm reading power signatures deeper in the nebula. Could be their installations, could be natural phenomena. Hard to tell with all this interference. Chen pulled up a tactical overlay. Sir, the radiation is only going to get worse the deeper we go. Even with our enhanced shielding, we're looking at maybe 6 hours of safe operation before we need to withdraw for repairs. Then we'd better make those 6 hours count. Marcus activated fleet-wide comms. All ships maintain formation. Sensors on maximum. The Devourers know this nebula. We're in their home territory now. Expect ambushes, expect traps, and expect them to use the environment against us. Acknowledged, came the chorus of responses. Human voices mixed with Keithian clicks, Velcrin harmonics, and Saurian rumbles. 24 ships, moving as one, the embodiment of everything Task Force Deathworld had become. Ambassador Velshara, now a permanent fixture on the Tenacity's bridge, shifted her weight on her reinforced observation station. Captain, I've been analyzing Devourer psychology based on our previous encounters. They're ambush predators by nature. They wait, they observe, and they strike when prey is most vulnerable. The fact that we're not seeing them yet troubles me. Because they're watching us, Marcus agreed. Learning our formations, our tactics, our capabilities. They did that with the Coalition for 2 years before we arrived. He pulled up a star chart of the nebula. But they don't know that humans learn to hunt by being hunted. Chen, I want active sensor sweeps in a randomized pattern. Don't let them predict where we're looking. Aye, sir. The Tenacity pushed deeper, the rest of Task Force trailing in a formation that looked scattered, but was actually carefully coordinated. Each ship positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire while maintaining enough distance that a single attack couldn't cripple multiple vessels. It was Lieutenant Okonkwo, monitoring the marine combat channels, who first noticed something wrong. Captain, I'm picking up. This is strange. I'm detecting Coalition transponder signals. Multiple sources, coming from a concentrated area about 80,000 kilometers ahead. Marcus's blood ran cold. Coalition signals? Out here? Yes, sir. Automated emergency beacons, the kind ships activate when they're critically damaged. Okonkwo's fingers flew over her console. I'm reading at least 17 distinct signals. Sir, these are from the ships that went missing when the Devourers first started their attacks. The ones that vanished without a trace. The bridge fell silent. 17 ships. Hundreds, maybe thousands of crew members. All assumed dead for the past 2 years. Could it be a trap? Chen asked quietly. Probably, Marcus said. But if there's even a chance that there are survivors, he straightened in his command chair. All ships, alter course. New heading. Source of Coalition transponders. Battle stations. If this is a trap, we're walking into it with our eyes open and our weapons hot. Milled. The source of the signals was a debris field unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Dozens of ships, Coalition vessels from multiple species, hung in space like insects caught in a web. But they weren't destroyed. They were attached to something. Mother of God, Chen breathed. What they thought was an asteroid field was actually a massive structure, a station, or perhaps a ship, constructed from both organic material and salvaged Coalition technology. The captured vessels were integrated into it, their hulls breached and connected by what looked like umbilical cords of biomechanical tissue. Are those ships still powered? Marcus asked, his voice tight. Some of them, yes. I'm reading minimal life support on at least 6 vessels. Captain, Okonkwo's voice shook slightly. I'm detecting life signs. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They're alive in there. Scan for Devourer ships, Marcus ordered. This is definitely a trap, but we're not leaving survivors behind. The tactical display lit up with contacts. 20 Devourer warships, emerging from hiding spots among the debris and radiation clouds. They'd been waiting, silent, for Task Force Deathworld to commit to the rescue. Here we go, Marcus muttered. All ships, defensive formation around the prisoner vessels. Okonkwo, get boarding teams ready. Chen, I need a path through that structure. Find me where those life signs are concentrated. Sir, we're outnumbered again, Kowalski pointed out. And they're expecting us to fight conventionally. Time to disappoint them. Marcus studied the tactical situation. The Devourer ships were positioned in a perfect ambush formation. Superior numbers, home terrain advantage, and hostages that limited coalition offensive options. Perfect, in other words, for exactly the kind of unconventional warfare humans excelled at. Captain Velthas, Marcus said over a direct channel, you once told me that Kithian defensive doctrine emphasizes sacrifice of the few to preserve the many. I need you to remember the human version of that. Sacrifice of comfort to achieve the impossible. Can the Silverwind and Morningstar extend your shields to cover some of those prisoner ships? Yes, but it would leave us vulnerable to... Do it. Velcran scouts, I need you to run interference. Keep those Devourer ships occupied, but don't commit to direct engagement. Saurian destroyers, you're going to provide covering fire for the boarding operation. And the tenacity. Marcus's smile was predatory. Is going to knock on the front door and make sure everyone's attention is on us. That's a terrible plan, sir, Chin said. I know. Execute it. Task Force Deathworld split into 3 groups. The Kithian frigates moved to envelop the prisoner vessels with their powerful shields, creating protective bubbles that would buy time. The Velcran scouts scattered, their superior speed allowing them to engage multiple targets simultaneously, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. The Saurian destroyers formed the anvil, their heavy weapons punishing any Devourer ship that tried to break through to the hostages. And the tenacity, along with 2 other human vessels, charged directly at the organic station. The Devourers responded with overwhelming firepower. Plasma torpedoes and particle beams converged on the attacking human ships. The tenacity's shields flared white-hot, taking hit after hit. Damage alarms screamed across the bridge. Shields at 40%, Chin called out. We can't take much more of this. We don't need to. Kowalski, target that structure, not the ships, the organic connectors. I want those umbilicals severed. Full missile spread, proximity detonation. But sir, if we damage the structure while Coalition crews are aboard, they're already dead if we don't act. Fire! The tenacity unleashed everything it had. Missiles, railgun rounds, and focused laser fire carved into the organic structure. The umbilical connections that bound the captured ships began to rupture, spurting biomechanical fluids into space. And something unexpected happened. The Devourer ships broke off their attack on Task Force Deathworld and turned all their fury on the tenacity. Not tactically, not strategically, with pure, unrestrained rage. Captain, Velshara said from her station, her antennae quivering with alarm. That reaction, they're not protecting the hostages. They're protecting the structure itself. It's not just a prison. It's important to them somehow. Marcus filed that observation away for later analysis. Right now, his ship was taking a beating that would have destroyed most Coalition vessels. Damage report. Shields gone. Armor breaching in sections 9 through 15. We've lost 2 of our 3 railgun batteries, and the main reactor is running at 110%. Good. It's supposed to run hot. Marcus pulled up the tactical feed. The boarding teams were away, racing toward the prisoner vessels in their assault craft. The Kithian shields were holding. The Velcran scouts had drawn off half the enemy fleet. They just needed a few more minutes. How's our hyperspace drive? Functional, barely. Why? Because we're about to do something incredibly stupid, even by human standards. Marcus plotted a course on his tactical display. A micro jump, barely 5,000 kilometers, that would take the tenacity directly through the organic structure and out the other side. Helm, prepare for emergency hyperspace transit. We're going to jump through the station. The bridge crew stared at him. Sir? The helmsman said carefully. Jumping to hyperspace inside a gravity well is dangerous. Jumping through solid matter is supposed to be impossible. We'll be destroyed. The station isn't solid matter. It's mostly organic tissue and empty space. We'll be fine, probably. Marcus locked in the coordinates. Jump in 3, 2, 1, now. Reality twisted. For a fraction of a second, the tenacity existed in 2 places simultaneously, partly in normal space, partly in hyperspace. The organic station, unprepared for something to jump through it rather than around it, didn't have time to react. The human ship emerged on the far side of the structure, trailing debris and severed biomechanical tissue, its hull scarred but intact. Behind them, the organic station was in chaos. The micro-jump had carved a path of destruction through its interior, exposing compartments and systems that had been hidden. And more importantly, it had created an opening. Boarding teams, you have an entry point, Marcus broadcast. Go, go, go. T-A-D. D-T. Lieutenant Okonkwo led her Marines through the breach in the organic station and immediately wished she hadn't. The interior was a nightmare. Walls that pulsed with circulation systems, floors that felt disturbingly soft underfoot, and an atmosphere thick with organic compounds that her suit's filters struggled to process. "Spread out," she ordered. "Teams of 4. Find the Coalition prisoners and get them out. We have maybe 10 minutes before the Devourers seal this breach." Her team moved deeper into the structure, following the life sign readings on their tactical displays. The architecture made no sense by human standards. Corridors that curved and branched like blood vessels, chambers that served no obvious purpose, and a persistent sense that they were inside something alive rather than merely organic. "Contact!" Corporal Jackson shouted. 2 Devourers came around a corner, moving fast. The Marines opened fire, their kinetic weapons tearing through the aliens' armor. But these Devourers were different. Thinner, somehow less complete, as if they were juvenile versions of the warriors they'd fought before. "Keep moving," Okonkwo ordered. "Priority is the prisoners, not engaging the enemy." They found the first group of Coalition survivors in a chamber that could only be described as a cell. A spherical room with organic restraints holding 6 Velcran crew members against the walls. The Velcrans were alive but emaciated, their fur matted, their eyes hollow with trauma. "U.S. Marines," Okonkwo announced, her voice firm but gentle. "We're here to get you out. Can you move?" The lead Velcran stared at her with incomprehension. Then, slowly, understanding dawned. "Humans? You came? We thought everyone had abandoned us." "Humans don't abandon people," Okonkwo said, cutting through the restraints with a plasma torch. "That's not how we work. Come on, we're leaving." They found more prisoners as they pushed deeper. Keithians, Saurians, even a few humans from the early contact missions. All of them showing signs of long-term captivity. All of them held in chambers connected to the station's organic systems by tubes and wires. "What were they doing to you?" Okonkwo asked one of the human prisoners, a woman who'd been missing for 18 months. "Studying us," the woman said, her voice raspy from disuse. "Taking samples, testing our limits. They kept saying we were fascinating, that we were the key to something." She grabbed Okonkwo's arm. "Lieutenant, you need to see what they're building. It's in the central chamber. It's in..." An alarm shrieked through the organic structure. Not an electronic sound, but something biological, like the scream of a wounded animal. "They know we're here," Jackson reported. "Enemy contacts, multiple, converging on our position." "All teams, fall back to the breach point," Okonkwo ordered. "Bring every prisoner you found. Fighting withdrawal, covering formation." The retreat became a running battle through the twisted corridors. Devourers appeared from side passages, from ceiling vents, from hatches that hadn't been visible before. The Marines held them off with disciplined fire, their training and human tenacity buying precious seconds. They were almost to the breach when Okonkwo saw it. Through a transparent section of the organic wall, she glimpsed the central chamber the prisoner had mentioned, and what she saw there made her blood freeze. Hundreds of pods, maybe thousands, arranged in concentric circles. Each pod contained something that looked almost Devourer-like, but not quite. Creatures still growing, still forming. And at the center of it all, a massive structure that pulsed with energy, covered in what looked like genetic code written in bioluminescent patterns. They weren't just capturing Coalition members. They were using them, using their genetic material, their biology, their very essence to create something new. "Captain," she broadcast over the comm, "you need to see this. Upload my helmet cam feed. The Devourers aren't just raiders. They're..." A plasma bolt struck her shoulder, spinning her around. Jackson grabbed her, pulling her back toward the breach. "Lieutenant, we have to go now!" They tumbled through the opening, Marines and prisoners alike, into the waiting assault craft. The breach sealed behind them, organic tissue flowing like water to close the wound. "All teams accounted for," Jackson reported. "We got 97 prisoners. Lost 2 Marines in the fighting." Okonkwo barely heard him. She was watching the feed from her helmet camera, recorded before she'd been hit. Watching those thousands of pods, those growing things that were and weren't Devourers. Whatever they'd found here, it was bigger than a prisoner camp. Bigger than a military operation. It was something that could change the entire war. The Tenacity's medical bay was overwhelmed with rescued prisoners. 97 souls who'd been given up for dead now receiving treatment from human and Coalition medical staff. Captain Marcus Reeves moved through the bay, speaking with each survivor, gathering intelligence. The stories were all variations on the same nightmare. Ships ambushed, crews captured alive rather than killed, months or years of captivity in the organic structure while the Devourers conducted experiments. "They were always asking questions," one Saurian officer said, his scales dull from malnutrition. "About our worlds, our biology, our evolutionary history. especially interested in extreme environments, how we adapted, what our limits were. And they paid particular attention when we talked about humans, added a Kithian researcher. When they learned about Earth, about what you call Deathworld conditions, they became almost excited. Started asking if humans could survive specific scenarios. Radiation exposure, toxic atmospheres, temperature extremes. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. They were preparing, learning our weaknesses. Or our strengths, Ambassador Velshara said quietly. She'd been listening from the doorway, her antenna drooping with exhaustion. Captain, I need to show you something. Lieutenant Okonkwo's helmet footage from the station. They retreated to the ready room, where Chen and Kowalski were already reviewing the footage. What Marcus saw made his tactical mind race through implications faster than he could vocalize them. Those pods, Chen said, her voice tight. There are thousands of them, and the genetic patterns on the central structure, I ran them through our database. They're not pure Devourer DNA. They're hybrid. Combinations of Devourer genetics with other species. They're creating soldiers, Marcus said quietly. Taking the best traits from species they capture, Velcran speed, Saurian strength, Kithian durability, and breeding them into new Devourers. An army specifically designed to fight coalition forces. There's more, Velshara added. She pulled up a magnified section of the footage, focusing on one set of pods separated from the others. These pods here, the genetic patterns include human DNA. Not complete, not viable yet, but they're trying to create hybrids that combine Devourer resilience with human adaptability. The room fell silent as that implication sank in. If they succeed, Kowalski said slowly, they'll have warriors that can operate in any environment, adapt to any threat, and have the biological advantages of both species. They'd be unstoppable. How long? Marcus demanded. How long until those things in the pods are viable? Chin ran calculations on her display. Based on the development stage visible in the footage and what we know about Devourer biology, weeks, maybe a month. The older pods looked nearly mature. Marcus stood, pacing the small ready room like a caged predator. We need to destroy that station. If those hybrids reach maturity... Agreed, but sir, we can't, Chen interrupted. We used everything we had in that first assault. Our munitions are depleted, shields are at 30%, and half the task force is in similar condition. We'd need to withdraw, resupply, and come back with a much larger force. Which gives them time to complete their project, Velshara said. Or worse, to relocate. We've shown them we can find their hidden bases. They might scatter. Take those pods to different locations. We'd never find them all. Marcus slammed his fist on the table, the sound echoing in the confined space. We're so close. We have them on the defensive for the first time in this war, and we can't finish it because we don't have enough bullets. Then we get more bullets, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Admiral Torvin Kess's hologram materializing in the ready room. The old Saurian looked tired, but determined. Admiral, Marcus said, coming to attention. I wasn't expecting. Your report was transmitted automatically when you rescued the prisoners. The Council has been monitoring your progress with great interest. Torvin's expression was unreadable. Captain, you've accomplished something remarkable. You found the Devourers' breeding facility, rescued nearly 100 Coalition citizens, and discovered their plans for hybrid warriors. But you're right about one thing. You cannot complete this mission with your current resources. Sir, if we withdraw now... I'm not suggesting withdrawal, Captain. I'm suggesting reinforcement. Torvin manipulated the holographic display, showing a fleet positioning chart. The Coalition main battle fleet, 240 ships, is currently 12 hours from your position. I'm bringing them in. Marcus stared. Sir, the main fleet can't operate in the Kraskov Nebula. The radiation will be a manageable challenge now that you've proven it can be done. Your task force has shown that with proper shielding and aggressive tactics, the nebula isn't the impenetrable fortress the Devourers believed it to be. Torvin's expression hardened. We've spent 2 years on the defensive, losing colonies, watching the Devourers grow stronger. You've given us the opportunity to end this war in one decisive action. The Council has authorized a full-scale assault. A fleet that size will take days to fight through Devourer defenses, Marcus protested. By the time you reach the breeding station, which is why you're going to keep them busy. Task Force Deathworld's new mission, guerrilla warfare. Hit their supply lines, raid their outposts, draw their forces away from the breeding station. Make them chase you through the nebula while the main fleet moves into position for the killing blow. It was a sound strategy. It was also asking Task Force Deathworld to spend 12 hours being the most annoying target possible in the most dangerous environment imaginable. We can do that, Marcus said without hesitation. I know you can. That's why I'm giving you tactical command of the operation. The main fleet will follow your lead once they arrive. Torvin paused, his tail swishing slowly. Captain, 2 years ago, the Devourers started this war believing the Coalition was weak. Today, you're going to show them the price of that miscalculation. You have 12 hours to make their lives hell. I suggest you use them wisely. The hologram faded. Marcus looked at his senior staff, Chin, Kowalski, Velshara, and Okonkwo, who joined them after leaving medical. You heard the Admiral? We've got 12 hours to conduct a campaign of targeted chaos. Ideas? Hit their logistics first, Okonkwo suggested. They're biological entities. They need supplies, food, whatever sustains them. Find their supply depots and destroy them. Their communications network, Chen added. They've been coordinating attacks across multiple systems. They must have relay stations in the nebula. Take those out, and they can't organize a proper defense. And their mining operations, Velshara said, surprising everyone. What? I've been studying the station's composition. That organic technology requires rare elements that don't occur naturally in most star systems. They must be mining them somewhere in the nebula. Marcus felt a fierce grin spreading across his face. So we hit them everywhere at once. Make them think we're a fleet twice our size. Spread their forces thin. Keep them reactive instead of proactive. He activated the fleet-wide comm. All ships, this is Captain Reeves. I hope you got some rest during our rescue operation, because we're about to have the busiest 12 hours of our lives. New mission. We're going to make the Devourers regret ever hearing the word human. Task Force Deathworld split into 6 hunting packs, each consisting of 4 ships from mixed species. They scattered into the nebula like wolves on the hunt, following intelligence gathered from the rescued prisoners about Devourer supply routes and facility locations. Marcus commanded 1 pack from the Tenacity, accompanied by a Kithian frigate, a Velkran scout, and a Saurian destroyer. Their target, a Devourer logistics hub that, according to prisoner reports, served as a distribution center for the entire sector. Contact, Chen reported. 1 large station, approximately the size of a Coalition starbase, with 8 defending ships. Standard Devourer frigate configuration. 8 ships to our 4, Marcus mused. They're learning to not underestimate us. Good. Means they're scared. He studied the tactical display. Chin, can we replicate that micro-jump trick? Put us inside their defensive perimeter before they know we're there? Possible, but risky. The station has a significant mass. If we miscalculate the exit point, we could materialize inside solid structure. Then let's not miscalculate. Plot the jump. Velkran Scout, I want you to make a high-speed pass on the station perimeter. Make them think you're the main attack. While they're tracking you, we'll jump in and hit them from behind. The Velkran captain acknowledged with a harmonic trill. The scout ship, built for speed, accelerated toward the Devourer position at velocities that would have torn apart a human vessel. The Devourers took the bait, their defending ships moving to intercept what they thought was a reckless probe. Now, Marcus ordered. Reality twisted. The Tenacity dropped out of hyperspace 300 kilometers from the logistics station, point-blank range in space combat terms, with the Kithian frigate and Saurian destroyer appearing simultaneously in coordinated jumps. The Devourers, focused on the Velkran decoy, didn't realize they'd been flanked until the Coalition ships opened fire. Marcus didn't go for the defending ships. He went for the station itself. Target all cargo bays, manufacturing centers, and what looks like their fuel storage, he ordered. Maximum firepower. I want that station crippled, not destroyed. Let them survive to report what happened here. The Tenacity's weapons, supplemented by the heavier firepower of the Saurian destroyer, carved into the logistics hub. Cargo bays vented atmosphere and supplies into space. Manufacturing facilities exploded in cascades of secondary detonations, and when a railgun round penetrated what turned out to be a fuel depot, the resulting explosion lit up the nebula like a newborn star. Defending ships are breaking off pursuit of the scout, Chen reported. They're coming about, 8 contacts, closing fast. Let them come. Kithian frigate, extend shields around the Tenacity. Saurian destroyer, full power to weapons. Velkran scout, come back around and hit them from the rear. Let's show them what coordinated Coalition tactics look like. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 3 Devourer ships were destroyed. 2 were crippled and drifting, and the remaining 3 had fled into the nebula. The logistics station was a gutted wreck, its operations completely halted. Mission accomplished, Marcus said with satisfaction. All ships, jump to rendezvous point Delta. Let's see how the other packs are doing. Cherio. You feeling? Cherio? Across the Kraskov Nebula, similar scenes played out. Task Force Deathworld struck like lightning, hitting targets, withdrawing before reinforcements could arrive, then striking again somewhere else. They destroyed communications relays, crippled mining operations, ambushed patrol groups, and generally made the Devourers' lives miserable. The Devourers, for their part, tried everything to counter the attacks. They set ambushes, reinforced their facilities, and coordinated defensive patrols. But they were fighting an enemy that didn't follow any tactical doctrine they understood. The coalition forces under human leadership were unpredictable, aggressive, and absolutely relentless. After 6 hours of continuous operations, Marcus called a brief planning session with all pack leaders via holographic conference. "Status reports," he ordered. Captain Vel'Thas appeared first, his antennae upright with excitement, an expression Marcus had learned meant the Keithian was enjoying himself. "Pack 2 has destroyed 3 communication relays and 2 supply depots. Minimal damage to our forces. The Devourers are scrambling to restore their coordination network." The other pack leaders reported similar successes. Task Force Deathworld had conducted 37 separate attacks in 6 hours, destroying or crippling over 50 Devourer facilities and ships. The cost: 2 ships with moderate damage, 0 casualties. "Excellent work, everyone," Marcus said. "But we're about to enter the dangerous phase. The Devourers know we're here now. They know what we're doing. They're going to start hunting us actively instead of just defending. We need to stay mobile, stay unpredictable, and for the love of all that's holy, don't get cornered." "Captain," interrupted a new voice on the channel, one of the Velkrin scout captains. "I'm detecting a massive energy surge from the central nebula region. Multiple hyperspace signatures, very large mass. Something big is coming." Marcus felt ice in his veins. The main Devourer fleet? Possible. Estimated count: 60+ capital ships, along with smaller support vessels. They're converging on a single point. The Velkrin captain transmitted coordinates. "Sir, that's the location of the breeding station." Of course. The Devourers had realized Task Force Deathworld was a distraction. They were pulling back to defend their most valuable asset. "How long until the Coalition main fleet arrives?" Marcus demanded. Chin checked their timeline. 6 hours, 12 minutes. 6 hours. The Devourers would have 6 hours to fortify the breeding station, to prepare overwhelming defenses, maybe even to evacuate some of those hybrid pods to other locations. Marcus made a decision that he knew was probably going to get him court-martialed if it didn't get him killed first. "All packs, new orders. Converge on the breeding station. We're going to hit it again." "Sir," Chin said carefully, "we're 24 ships. They're massing 60+. The tactical math." "Isn't math, it's will. We don't need to destroy their fleet. We just need to keep them busy for 6 hours." Marcus pulled up the strategic display. "The breeding station is their most important facility. They'll defend it at all costs, which means we attack it at all costs. We keep their attention locked on us until the main fleet arrives." "That's suicide," Vel'Thas said flatly. "No, it's duty. We're buying time for the Coalition to win this war. Our lives for billions of others? That's an easy calculation." Marcus met the eyes of each pack leader through the holographic display. "I'm not ordering this. I'm asking for volunteers. Anyone who wants to withdraw can do so without any judgment from me. But I'm going in. The tenacity is going to be the biggest pain in the Devourer's ass they've ever experienced." There was a long silence. Then Vel'Thas's antennae rose in what Marcus had learned was determination. "The Silver Wind volunteers. If humans can face impossible odds, so can Keithians." "Pack 4 volunteers," said a Saurian commander. "Pack 6 is in," confirmed a Velkrin captain. One by one, every pack leader volunteered. 24 ships, commanded by 7 different species, all unified by a simple truth. When you stand with humans, you learn to redefine what's possible. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "All packs, plot course for the breeding station. Maximum speed. We attack in 1 hour." He closed the channel and turned to find Vel'Shara standing beside his command chair. "You know," the ambassador said softly, "when Admiral Kess first told me you were being assigned to the Coalition fleet, I thought he was insane. I thought humans were too aggressive, too reckless, too fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization. And now? Now I think you're still all of those things. But I also think those are exactly the qualities we need." She placed one of her manipulators on his shoulder, a gesture of solidarity she'd learned from humans. "Captain, if we're about to die, I want you to know that serving with Task Force Deathworld has been the honor of my life." "We're not going to die, Ambassador. We're going to do something much more annoying to the Devourers. We're going to survive long enough to watch them lose." Marcus hoped he sounded more confident than he felt. The Devourer breeding station was transformed. Where before it had been lightly defended, now it bristled with weapon emplacements, shield generators, and a fleet that dwarfed anything Task Force Deathworld could field. 67 capital ships, according to their scans. Maybe 80 smaller support vessels. All of them positioned in layered defensive formations around the massive organic structure. Well, Chen said, staring at the tactical display. At least they're taking us seriously now. That's the plan, Marcus replied. All ships assume attack formation Delta 9. We're going to make multiple high-speed passes, inflict damage where we can, and most importantly, keep them so focused on us that they don't notice the main fleet approaching until it's too late. Sir, Kowalski said, even with our best tactics, we can't survive against those numbers. Not for 6 hours. Then we'll survive for 5 hours and 59 minutes and hope the Admiral is early. Marcus pulled up the attack vectors. First pass, fast and aggressive. We need to establish that we're a credible threat worth defending against. After that, it becomes a game of cat and mouse. The 24 ships of Task Force Deathworld accelerated toward the Devourer fleet. They were outnumbered more than 3 to 1. They were in enemy territory. They had minimal reserves and ammunition running low. By every conventional measure, they were about to be annihilated. All ships, Marcus broadcast, his voice carrying to every crew member in the task force. For the past 3 weeks, we've been training to think differently, to fight differently, to redefine what's possible. Today, we prove that training wasn't just academic. Today, we show the galaxy what a determined force can accomplish when they refuse to accept defeat. We don't have to win this battle. We just have to not lose it for 6 hours. Stay mobile, stay aggressive, and remember, we're not here to survive. We're here to be the most annoying enemies the Devourers have ever faced. He switched to the Tenacity's internal comm. All hands, battle stations. This is going to be rough. But remember, humans survived the Ice Age, the Black Death, 2 world wars, and the environmental collapse of the 21st century. We survived because when everything was against us, we got stubborn. Today, we're going to be very, very stubborn. The Devourer fleet opened fire at extreme range. Plasma torpedoes and particle beams filled space, creating a wall of fire that Task Force Deathworld charged directly into. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Omega, Marcus ordered. All ships, scatter formation. Don't give them a concentrated target. The Coalition ships broke into 4 groups, each taking a different vector toward the breeding station. The Devourers tried to track all of them simultaneously, their defensive coordination fragmenting as they attempted to intercept multiple threats. The Tenacity led its group in a screaming dive toward the station's lower hemisphere, firing everything it had at the defensive emplacements. Shields flared, weapons burned, and human pilots flew through debris fields and weapon fire with a recklessness that bordered on insanity. Direct hit on their southern shield generator, Kowalski reported. Their coverage has a gap now. Velcran scouts, exploit that gap. Get inside their defenses and make them chase you. Marcus watched as the nimble scout ships dove through the opening, forcing Devourer capital ships to break formation to pursue them. Good. Now they're reacting instead of controlling the battle. For the next hour, Task Force Deathworld conducted what military historians would later call the most audacious holding action in Coalition history. They flew impossible patterns, took insane risks, and somehow stayed alive through a combination of skill, luck, and sheer determination. But the toll was mounting. Morningstar * has lost shields, Chen reported. They're withdrawing to minimum safe distance. Single Eclipse * is reporting critical damage to their hyperspace drive. Their combat ineffective. Razor Wind has been hit. Captain, they're gone. Debris field only. Marcus felt each loss like a physical blow. But he couldn't afford to stop, couldn't afford to grieve. All ships, tighten formation around the damaged vessels. We protect our wounded. 2 hours into the battle, they'd lost 3 ships, and another 5 were seriously damaged. The remaining 16 were running on depleted ammunition, overheated weapons, and shields that flickered more than they protected. And they still had 4 hours to go. Captain, Velshara said quietly, at current attrition rates, we won't make it to the main fleet's arrival. I know. Marcus studied the tactical situation, looking for any advantage, any edge they could exploit. We need to change tactics. Instead of attacking the station, we're going to make them chase us into the nebula, lead them away from their defensive positions. Sir, if we go deeper into the nebula, the radiation will affect them too, and we've proven we can handle it better than they can. Marcus began plotting a course. All ships, prepare for strategic withdrawal into the nebula. We're going to make them choose, stay and defend the station, or pursue us into hostile territory. Either way, we win. The plan worked better than Marcus dared hope. When Task Force Deathworld withdrew into the denser regions of the nebula, the Devourer commanders faced a dilemma. If they didn't pursue, the Coalition ships would have time to repair and return. But if they did pursue, they'd be fighting in conditions that favored the enemy. They chose pursuit. 30 ships broke off from the defensive fleet and followed Task Force Deathworld into the radiation clouds. Perfect. Marcus said with grim satisfaction. They've split their forces. Now we just have to survive being hunted by ships that outnumber us 2-1 in an environment that's actively trying to kill us. Chin, how's our radiation shielding holding up? Better than theirs. I'm reading shield fluctuations on the Devourer ships. The radiation is taxing their defenses. Chin pulled up a comparative analysis. Sir, if we can draw them deeper, their shields might fail before ours do. Then let's go deeper. All ships, course heading 27 Mark 5. Take us into the densest radiation zone you can find. What followed was a deadly game of cat and mouse through stellar clouds so charged with radiation that sensors barely functioned. The Task Force ships led the Devourers deeper and deeper, always staying just ahead, always keeping them engaged. The Devourer ships began to falter first. Their shields, designed for different conditions, couldn't handle the sustained radiation exposure. 2 ships were forced to withdraw when their shielding failed completely, exposing their crews to lethal radiation levels. But Task Force Deathworld wasn't unscathed. The radiation was taking its toll on everyone, human and alien alike. Ship systems degraded faster than engineering teams could repair them. Crew members showed signs of radiation sickness despite the shielding. 4 hours into the battle, Marcus received the report he'd been dreading. Captain, we've lost another ship, the Star Runner. Their reactor overloaded under the radiation stress. No survivors. Chin's voice was hollow with exhaustion. Sir, we're down to 14 ships. We can't keep this up much longer. Marcus looked at the chronometer. 2 hours until the main fleet arrived. 2 hours that might as well have been 2 years. How many Devourer ships are still pursuing us? 23. We've whittled them down, but they're still hunting. Marcus made a calculation that any sane commander would have called suicide. All ships, we're done running. We turn and fight. Everything we have left, one final engagement. Either we hold them for 2 more hours, or we die trying. The 14 remaining ships of Task Force Deathworld turned to face their pursuers in a region of space where the radiation was so intense that simply being there was slowly killing everyone involved. The battle that followed was brutal and desperate. Ships that could barely maintain shields traded fire at point-blank range. Weapons overheated and failed. Hull plating buckled under combined stress of radiation and enemy fire. The Tenacity lost its starboard weapon batteries in the first exchange. The Silver Wind, true to Kithian doctrine, positioned itself between damaged ships and enemy fire, taking hit after hit until its armor was more gap than plate. A Saurian destroyer, its weapons depleted, rammed a Devourer cruiser in an act of desperate sacrifice that took both ships out of the fight. Marcus barely heard the damage reports anymore. His world had narrowed to the tactical display, to making each decision that might buy another minute of survival. Captain! Chin's voice cut through the chaos with sudden urgency. Hyperspace signatures! Multiple contacts! Massive fleet! For a moment, Marcus's heart sank. Reinforcements for the Devourers would end this battle immediately. Then Chin continued. It's the Coalition fleet! Sir, Admiral Kess arrived early. 240 ships emerging from hyperspace directly between us and the breeding station. The view screen showed a sight that would be immortalized in Coalition military history. The largest assembled fleet in galactic memory, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation, weapons hot, shields raised. And at the head of that fleet, Admiral Torvin Kess's flagship broadcast a message that echoed across all frequencies. This is the Coalition main battle fleet. To all Devourer forces, you attacked our worlds, you murdered our citizens, and you threatened our future. Today, that ends. To Task Force Deathworld, well done. Now let us finish this. The Devourer fleet, caught between Task Force Deathworld and the main fleet, realized too late that they'd been outmaneuvered. They tried to regroup, tried to establish defensive positions around the breeding station. But the Coalition wasn't interested in prolonged engagement. 240 ships, their tactics refined by weeks of training with human advisors, fell upon the Devourer positions with coordinated fury. The battle was over in an hour. The Devourer fleet was shattered. The breeding station, seeing defeat was inevitable, began its self-destruct sequence. Chin, can we stop that self-destruct? Marcus demanded. Negative, sir. It's biological. They're triggering systemic collapse throughout the entire structure. Even if we boarded it, we couldn't prevent. I'm not letting them destroy the evidence of what they were doing. Marcus pulled up the station schematics. Scanning teams, target the pod chambers. I want full scans of those hybrid creatures before the station goes up. We need that data. For the next 30 minutes, Coalition ships swarmed the dying breeding station, their sensors cataloging everything they could before the structure's integrity failed. When the station finally exploded, It was with the knowledge that its secrets had been captured, recorded, and preserved. Marcus slumped in his command chair, exhaustion finally overtaking adrenaline. Around him, his bridge crew looked equally drained. The view screen showed the Coalition fleet in victory formation, with the battered survivors of Task Force Deathworld limping into protective positions among their rescuers. "Casualty report?" he said quietly. Chin pulled up the numbers, her voice carefully neutral. Task Force Deathworld suffered 10 ship losses, with 4 more requiring extensive repairs. Crew casualties: 147 dead, over 300 wounded. 60% of our combat effectiveness destroyed. But they'd held. For 6 hours against impossible odds, they'd held. "Sir," Kowalski said, "Admiral Kess is requesting permission to come aboard." Marcus stood, straightening his burned and bloodied uniform as best he could. "Granted. And someone find Ambassador Velshara. She needs to be here for this." Admiral Torvin Kess materialized on the Tenacity's bridge via holographic teleporter, a technology the humans had always found slightly unsettling. The old Saurian looked around at the damaged bridge, the exhausted crew, and the smoke still wisping from overloaded systems. "Captain Reeves," he said formally, "I've reviewed your battle logs. By every conventional standard, what you accomplished today was impossible. You held a superior force for 6 hours with inadequate resources and obsolete equipment. Military historians will be studying this engagement for centuries. With respect to Admiral, tell that to the 147 crew members who won't be going home." Marcus's voice was flat, drained of emotion. "We survived. Barely. And a lot of good people didn't." "No, Captain. They didn't survive. They sacrificed themselves so that the war could be won today." Torvin moved to the viewport, looking out at the debris field that had been the breeding station. "Because of Task Force Deathworld's actions, we've dealt the Devourers a blow they may never recover from. Their main fleet is shattered, their breeding program destroyed, their strategic position compromised. This war isn't over, but today, we proved it can be won." "Admiral," Velshara interjected, entering the bridge with her usual efficiency despite looking as exhausted as everyone else. "The scans of the breeding station. Have your analysts reviewed them yet?" "They have, which is why I'm here." Torvin's expression darkened. "We need to discuss what you found, privately." They adjourned to the ready room. Marcus, Torvin, Velshara, and Chin. Kowalski remained on the bridge, coordinating with the fleet. Torvin activated a holographic display showing the genetic analysis of the hybrid pods. "Your initial assessment was correct. The Devourers were creating hybrid warriors combining their biology with traits from captured Coalition species. But there's more, something our geneticist found in the core programming of the hybrids." He zoomed in on a section of genetic code. "This isn't natural evolution. This is deliberate engineering, far more sophisticated than the Devourers should be capable of. And look at this marker here." He highlighted a specific sequence. "We've seen this pattern before, 17,000 years ago, when Coalition archaeologists were excavating pre-spaceflight civilizations." Marcus felt a chill. "You're saying someone else designed these hybrids?" "I'm saying the Devourers aren't the architects of their own evolution. They're," Torvin struggled for the word, "tools, weapons created by someone else, someone who's been watching the Coalition for millennia, studying us, preparing to conquer us using biological warfare tailored to our specific weaknesses." The ready room fell silent as that implication sank in. "If the Devourers are just weapons," Chin said slowly, "where are their makers? Who created them?" "That's the question that Coalition intelligence is now desperately trying to answer." Torvin pulled up star charts showing regions of space beyond Coalition borders. "We've identified several possibilities. Ancient civilizations that disappeared mysteriously, unexplored sectors where no expedition has returned, anomalies that don't match any known phenomenon. Somewhere out there is a species powerful enough to genetically engineer warriors, patient enough to plan over millennia, and hostile enough to want the Coalition destroyed. And now that we've defeated their weapons," Velshara said, her antenna drooping with dread, "they know we're a threat. We've revealed ourselves. Worse than that," Marcus added, studying the genetic data. "We've shown them that humans exist, a species from a death world, capable of tactics they couldn't predict, with evolutionary advantages their models didn't account for." He met Torvin's eyes. "We didn't just win a battle today, Admiral. We drew the attention of something much more dangerous than the Devourers ever were." Torvin nodded slowly. "Which is why the Coalition Council is implementing emergency protocols. We're mobilizing the entire fleet, establishing deep space monitoring stations, and," he paused, "forming a special operations task force to investigate this threat. a task force that will operate outside normal coalition jurisdiction with authority to pursue the enemy wherever they hide. Marcus knew what was coming before Torvin said it. Captain Reeves, the Council wants you to command it. Task Force Deathworld will be expanded, given the best ships we can provide, and sent into the unknown to find whoever created the Devourers and end this threat permanently. You're asking us to go hunting for an enemy we know nothing about in regions of space we've never explored, against odds we can't calculate. Yes? Marcus looked at Chen and Velshara. Chen nodded immediately. She'd follow him into hell if he asked. Velshara's antennae quivered, but she clicked her agreement. Where humans lead, the coalition will follow, even into the unknown. Then I accept, Marcus said. On one condition, my people get a month of leave first. Real leave, not repair and refit leave. They've earned it. Agreed. 1 month. Then you depart for Sector Obscura, the region where we believe the Devourers originated. Torvin's hologram began to flicker. The connection was degrading. Captain, one last thing. The prisoner you captured during the boarding action, the Devourer you interrogated, it's been asking to speak with you specifically. It says it has information about what's coming, information that only you can hear. Before Marcus could respond, alarms shrieked throughout the ship. Captain! Kowalski's voice was urgent over the comm. We've got a problem. One of the damaged Devourer ships. It wasn't as disabled as we thought. It's moving, accelerating toward the Eternal Judgment. Sir, I think it's a suicide run. Everyone rushed to the bridge. The view screen showed a Devourer frigate, its hull scarred and venting atmosphere, burning its engines at maximum as it closed on the Admiral's flagship. The distance, less than 30 seconds at current speed. Eternal Judgment. Evasive maneuvers, Marcus broadcast. All ships, target that frigate! But the Eternal Judgment, massive and powerful, couldn't maneuver fast enough. The smaller ships tried to intercept, but the suicide vessel had timed its attack perfectly. Then something impossible happened. The Devourer ship, just seconds from impact, changed course. Not randomly, deliberately. It turned away from the Admiral's flagship and accelerated into deep space, fleeing at speeds that should have torn its damaged hull apart. What just happened? Chen demanded. Did we hit it? Negative, Kowalski said, confusion in his voice. It just stopped its attack, like something overrode its pilot's control. Marcus stared at the retreating ship, a terrible suspicion forming. Track that ship! Where's it going? The sensors followed the Devourer frigate as it jumped to hyperspace, its trajectory analyzed by the fleet's computers. The destination coordinates appeared on Marcus's display. Those coordinates, Velshara breathed. They're not in coalition space. They're not in any space we've mapped. It's heading into the void beyond the galactic arm. It's going home, Marcus said quietly. Back to whoever made it. And it's carrying something with it. What could it be carrying? Chen asked. Marcus pulled up the sensor logs from the battle, focusing on the suicide ship. There, a single life pod had been launched from the vessel just before it changed course. A pod containing not Devourer crew, but something else. Something the scanners couldn't quite identify because it was wrapped in the same organic material that composed the breeding station. A pod containing one of the hybrids. Still immature, still developing, but viable. They got one out, Marcus said, his voice hollow. All that fighting, all those deaths, and they still managed to save one of their hybrids. They're taking it to their creators, showing them what we can do, yes, but also showing them what they need to counter us. Admiral Torvin's hologram flickered back to life, his expression grave. Captain, this changes everything. They know about humans now. They know what we're capable of, and they're preparing. Marcus looked out at the stars, at the vast expanse of the unknown beyond coalition borders. Somewhere out there, an ancient and malevolent intelligence was learning about humanity for the first time, learning about Deathworlders who refused to follow the rules, who turned impossible odds into victories, who had just defeated a weapon designed to conquer the galaxy. Admiral, Marcus said slowly, I'm going to need more than a month of leave to prepare for this. We're not just fighting a war anymore. We're about to face whoever has been pulling the strings of galactic history for millennia. And they've just learned that humanity exists. What do you need? Marcus turned to face the Admiral's hologram, his expression hard with determination. Ships. The best we have. Crews trained in human tactics. Scientists to study what we recovered from the breeding station. And most importantly, he paused. Access to the Devourer prisoner. If we're going into the unknown, I want every scrap of intelligence we can get. Done. All of it. Torvin's image solidified one final time. Captain Reeves, Task Force Deathworld is being reorganized into something new. Something the Council is calling Operation Prometheus, after the human myth of stealing fire from the gods. Prometheus was punished for that, Velshara pointed out. Yes, Torvin agreed. But humanity thrived because of what he gave them. Sometimes the punishment is worth the prize. He fixed Marcus with an intense stare. Go see your prisoner, Captain. Learn what it knows. Because in 30 days, you're going to need every advantage you can get when you enter the abyss beyond mapped space. The hologram faded. Marcus stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by exhausted crew, damaged systems, and the weight of what they'd discovered. They'd won the battle. They'd saved the coalition. They'd proven that humanity deserved its place among the stars. And in doing so, they'd awakened something that had been sleeping in the darkness between galaxies. Something that now knew humans existed. Something that was preparing. Captain, Jen said quietly, are we really going to do this? Fly into unknown space to fight an enemy we can't even identify? Marcus thought about the 147 crew members who'd died today, about the billions of coalition citizens who'd been saved, about the responsibility that came with being a Deathworlder in a galaxy that was only just learning what that meant. Yes, he said simply, because that's what humans do. We see the impossible, and we do it anyway. Someone has to go into the dark. It might as well be people who were born in it. He turned to face his crew. Humans, Kithians, Velkrans, Saurians, all of them bloodied but unbowed. Get some rest, everyone. We've earned it. But in 30 days, we're going hunting for whatever created the Devourers. We're going to find them, we're going to face them, and we're going to show them the same lesson we taught their weapons. You don't pick a fight with a species that had to fight its own planet just to survive. Not if you want to win. The crew dispersed, leaving Marcus alone on the bridge. He walked to the viewport and stared out at the wreckage of the breeding station, at the debris field where so many had died, at the stars that suddenly seemed full of hidden threats. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, something ancient and powerful was receiving a report about humanity, learning about Deathworlders, preparing new weapons, new strategies, new ways to eliminate this unexpected variable. Marcus smiled grimly. Let them prepare. Let them plan. Let them think they could engineer a solution to the human problem. They were about to learn that humans were the universe's way of saying, your plan isn't good enough. But first, he had a prisoner to interrogate. A devourer who claimed to have critical information that only he could hear. Marcus left the bridge and headed for the detention level, his mind racing with questions. What could a devourer possibly tell him that would matter now? What information was so important that it required this specific meeting? He was about to find out. And what he learned in that detention cell would change everything he thought he knew about the war, about the Devourers, and about humanity's role in a galactic conflict that had been brewing for millennia before humans even discovered fire. The door to the detention cell opened. The Devourer inside turned to face him and spoke words that made Marcus's blood run cold. We need to talk, Captain Reeves, because everything you think you know about this war is wrong, and the entity that created us, it didn't just create the Devourers, it created humanity too. TDT, one pile. To be continued.